Hello and welcome. Today we are diving into something really powerful and honestly, something that's often misunderstood, the law of intimacy. We're going to talk about why sex is never, ever just a physical act. It's actually a profound energy exchange that can leave you feeling either totally grounded and whole or, anxious and completely depleted. Let's get into why that is. So, does this question hit home for you? You feel that pull, right? That sense of closeness, but it's all tangled up with this weird knot of anxiety or confusion. Well, if you felt that, you're not alone. It is an incredibly common experience, and it is not a sign that something's wrong with you. It's actually a sign that a fundamental law of energy is at play. And this right here? This is the core law we're exploring today. I want you to think of intimacy like a giant magnifying glass. It's a totally neutral force on its own. It doesn't create something out of nothing. What it does is it takes the emotional state that already exists in your relationship, whether that's safety, trust, and consistency, or on the flip side, chaos, resentment, and dishonesty, and it just turns up the volume. A lot. So let's take a look at what this looks like when that foundation is shaky. This brings us to our first path. What happens during a chaotic energy transfer? This is when intimacy happens without that bedrock of emotional safety. You see, a chaotic transfer doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It's fueled by things that are already going on in the relationship. Things like emotional inconsistency, where a partner is super warm one day and then cold and distant the next. Or maybe there's dishonesty, or some unresolved anger simmering under the surface. Or sometimes it's just about being with someone who is fundamentally not the right partner for you. These are the cracks in the foundation that intimacy is going to expose. Now, what's so fascinating here is you can see the core problem visually. When you're intimate, your biology just kicks right in. Your body's attachment pathways light up like a Christmas tree, basically screaming, bond, connect. But at the exact same time, the reality of the relationship, that instability, that lack of safety, is telling you the complete opposite. It's this clash, this neurological mismatch, that's really where all the trouble begins. And that neurological mismatch, it leads to some very real and honestly, very painful emotional fallout. You're left in this kind of emotional fog, just replaying conversations over and over in your head. You get this deeply confusing feeling of being tied to someone, but you don't actually feel seen or loved. And over time, this just eats away at your trust in yourself and leaves you feeling completely and utterly drained. So why is this so powerful? Well, because it's not just a feeling, it is pure biology. The moment intimacy happens, your emotional walls naturally soften. Then boom, oxytocin, which people call the bonding hormone or the cuddle chemical, floods your system, creating this powerful drive to attach. And then your nervous system basically takes a snapshot, imprinting this person and this experience as deeply significant. And the key thing to get is this happens every single time, no matter what your intentions are. And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? It's so brilliant. We often think that physical protection makes an encounter safe. And look, it does, in one very, very important way. But it does absolutely nothing to stop that flood of attachment chemistry. It doesn't block oxytocin. It doesn't stop your nervous system from forming a bond. That energetic exchange happens anyway. Okay, so that's the painful path. But there is another way. And this brings us to path 2, the coherent transfer. This is what happens when intimacy is built on genuine, real safety. Just look at the difference here. The biology is exactly the same. Your body's attachment pathways still light up. But the huge difference is that in this case, the reality of the relationship actually affirms that bond. The emotional connection is consistent. The safety is real. Here, your body, your mind, and your relationship are all singing from the same hymn sheet. There's no conflict, just coherence. And the outcomes of a coherent exchange are just profound. Instead of that fog, you get clarity. Instead of anxiety, you feel this deep sense of calm. Intimacy becomes something that restores you, not drains you. It reinforces the stability that was already there. It deepens trust, and it leaves you feeling more like yourself, not less. This is intimacy as a stabilizing, even healing force. Now, this stuff doesn't just stay between two people in a room. These private patterns of chaos or coherence, they have a very real, very public impact that literally echoes through the entire home. It shapes the emotional atmosphere for everyone, especially for kids. Children don't need to know the details of what's going on. Their nervous systems absorb everything like a sponge. In a home that's marked by that chaotic energy, a child learns that love is unpredictable, that closeness actually leads to tension. But in a coherent home, they learn the opposite. They learn connection is safe. Love feels like home. And maybe most importantly, they learn, my nervous system can rest here. This is literally how attachment patterns get passed down through generations. So, after hearing about these two very different paths, what do we actually do with this information? Well, this isn't about creating fear or shame around your past, not at all. It's about empowerment. The turning point isn't about changing what's already happened, it's about bringing awareness and discernment to your present and your future. This question right here, this is everything. This is the pivot from self-blame to self-respect. So instead of internalizing all that anxiety and asking yourself, ugh, what is wrong with me? You start to flip the script. You start asking, hold on, what kind of environment does my nervous system actually need to feel whole and regulated? It really does change the entire game. And this brings us to such a crucial point. We have to learn to tell the difference between chemistry and safety. That intense, magnetic, can't get enough of you feeling, that's chemistry. Safety, well, safety is consistency. It's reliability. It's emotional presence. It's knowing someone is going to be there after that intense feeling fades. You could say chemistry feels loud, while safety often feels really quiet. So this all boils down to one central core truth. If you take away only one single thing from our time together today, please let it be the idea on this next slide. Just let that sink in for a second. We cannot use intimacy as a tool to try and build safety where it doesn't exist. It just doesn't work that way. The safety has to come first, because intimacy will only ever amplify what is already there. If you build intimacy on a foundation of safety, it amplifies peace. If you build it on chaos, well, it amplifies chaos. And for anyone out there who has been through that chaotic cycle, please, please hear this. You were not weak for bonding with someone. You weren't foolish for feeling attached. Your body was simply doing exactly what it was designed to do. You are literally wired for connection. The issue was never your wiring. It was the environment you were plugging that wiring into. And the really beautiful thing is you have a built-in compass for this stuff. That feeling of anxiety after intimacy, that's data. That feeling of calm and peace, that's also data. Your nervous system always knows the difference between safety and danger. The real work is just learning to listen to its signals and to trust what it's telling you. So, if this explainer resonated with you and maybe brought a little bit of clarity, please consider liking it and sharing it with someone who you think might need to hear this message. And for some practical tools and resources to help you really master your day-to-day and build a more coherent life, be sure to click the link down in the description below. Thanks so much for being here.